In the United States, there are an estimated 300 million guns. There were also recorded 253 public shootings in the year 2014 alone. Obviously, that's quite a few. However, armed citizens, not police, help stop 16% of shootings each year. The ability to take control of a poor situation may mean life or death. I argue that if civilians lawfully carry guns, then they make the public safer. Howdy, my name is Cameron Crawford. I'm going to take a few minutes of your time and convince you that banning or increasing gun control is a mistake. If you already agree with me, then that's great. But if you don't, let's see if I can't convince you. The three main arguments for gun control primarily are that if there aren't any guns, the killings would stop. The Second Amendment only allows the citizens to have guns in a well-regulated militia, and that more guns may create more homicides and make it easier for suiciders. Each of these 3 points are very important in understanding that gun control is a major issue in today's society and will continue to be an issue in the future. Many anti-gun activists are for complete or very strict gun control, almost to the point of banning the future sales or prohibiting current gun use. My answer to this claim is the 18th Amendment. As most of us are familiar with the 18th Amendment, it prohibited the production, transport, and sale of alcohol in the United States of America. This was to combat the lack of drive in the workforce, antisocial behaviors, and domestic abuse at home. Once alcohol was made illegal, people found other ways to get it. In other words, people found illegal methods to get what they wanted. Criminals like Al Capone arose and took control of the streets because he controlled the illegal market. The same would happen essentially if guns were banned. Illegal organizations such as gangs would continue to traffic guns across the border. However, because they are the only ones moving guns, they will control the streets. Criminals will become bolder because they know that others aren't carrying guns, and crimes to maintain this control of the streets would be much deadlier than, say, in the 20s. There could be an uprising, perhaps not on a national scale, but some large cities and citizens definitely would fight to keep their guns. For example, Texans. People in Texas love their guns. In extremes, there could be a civil war over this issue, but with much deadlier weapons. Therefore, an outright ban or tight restrictions would be a terrible idea because it would cause too much of an upset in a large amount of Americans who happen to be armed with guns, and those who opposed guns obviously won't have them when the uprising starts. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the Second Amendment. I admit it can be interpreted differently. Those who are anti-gun focus mainly on the word militia. They believe that this provision was only meant to allow the states to protect themselves because no regular military would be able to aid them. Once the military was established, it can be interpreted that the amendment was only to be temporary. However, owning guns are not just for home defense. I, as well as others, see the Second Amendment as a provision to protect ourselves from attacks should the military fail. In an extreme situation, say a nuclear holocaust or a war, and the military can't help for some reason, the civilians are the last line of defense. Any invasion from a foreign power will use assault rifles, automatics. If we restrict or ban our own guns, then we won't stand a chance. Some say that guns allow for more possibility for homicides and suicides. Logically, guns were invented to kill, either animals or humans. So logically, more guns means more bullets, and these bullets have to be fired, which logically means more deaths. Animals are humans. So if we look at the UK, they passed the Second Firearms Act of 1997, which banned the use and ownership of all handguns. The homicide ratio in 1996, the year before the law was passed, was 1.12 people per 100,000 citizens. The year 1997, the year the law was passed, the ratio was raised to 1.2 people. And in 2002, the ratio rose to 2.1 in 2002. These statistics show that the law isn't exactly helping homicides rates at all, and it keeps rising. In 2005, there were 765 murders in the U.S. with knives, blunt objects, strangulations, fire, or poison. Experts believe that this number could have been greatly reduced if people were given the opportunity to arm themselves properly, say with guns. In Germany, in 2009, a 17-year-old killed 15 and wounded 9 with only a pistol. Now, some might say that if gun control laws were in place, then this could have been prevented, which is true. Yet, this tragedy happened in Germany, where it is very difficult to obtain a license to own a gun. So, this leads to my last point. Those who are determined to do harm to themselves or others will find a way to do so. Criminals, they're not going to obey gun laws, and will have an advantage over the public because the public won't have their own guns. Those who are set on suicide will find a way. The gun just happened to be a tool. In conclusion, anti-gun activists have strong points. No guns means no more deaths, but as I mentioned earlier, that prohibition will only do more harm than good. It will put power in the hands of the criminals, and former law-abiding citizens will resort to breaking the law to keep what they believe is their natural right, the right to defend themselves. The Second Amendment does state that the right to bear arms was for a militia. I believe that the citizens happen to be already a militia. If anything were to happen to the military, it would be up to the citizens to defend their land and their country. It would essentially be exactly as our founding fathers had it. They defended themselves against the British. Of course, guns were invented to kill people, so more guns would equal more deaths, animals or human. However, when we look at other countries like the UK and Germany, who already have a gun ban or very tight restrictions, statistics show that these bans either have no effect or have made homicide and suicide rates increase. In conclusion, handing every American a gun to defend themselves, I believe, is a ridiculous notion, but taking them away from the responsible citizens is an even worse idea with only negative side effects. Hopefully you can form your own opinions on this, but thank you for listening. Thanks, and Gigo.
Here you go.